Hi guys, welcome to the Heart of David. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. A lot going on in the world, eh? I've been doing a lot of studying, so still paying attention to everything that's going on. But this is a good, you're gonna like this. I don't usually play on purpose. I don't usually put things on my channel like things that are worldly. I just don't. I'm not. That's not what Christ wants us to be, worldly. But I believe sometimes there's recognition that needs to be. There's deserved recognition of some things, and so I'm going to mention the name of this person, a Medal of Honor recipient from the Vietnam War. And, one of the reasons I do it is because before I got sick and while I was sick, I spent a lot of time collecting World War II items, like models, die-cast models, books, maps, whatever, reading about World War II, and my grandpa. He was on the first wave on Juno Beach in 1944. Normandy fought its way to Germany. So even though I don't know a whole lot about it, because he tended not to talk about those things and died early, 1991. Actually, I'm trying to think of the year he died. May have been 1990. In any case, I had to check. I'm forgetting this guy's first name, but I'll find it in a second. His last name is Benavidez, and I only heard of this strangely last night. I've heard a lot about a whole lot of different things in the Vietnam War. I didn't spend as much time there as I did with World War I and II, but I know enough, and I thought I'd heard. Excuse me. I have abdominal issues if you've never seen me. I thought I had heard the craziest stories for Medal of Honor recipients and people who haven't even won the Medal of Honor that certainly deserved it. And one of the craziest stories was a guy from New Zealand in World War II. I'm forgetting his name right now. But I just don't delve into those things much anymore, if at all. But when I heard this yesterday, I was watching the Chris Williamson podcast because I just saw the title, Medal of Honor, craziest story I've ever heard. And I listened to it and I just couldn't believe it. Just some of the things that people will do in the name of love for another brother, in this case, physically, it just makes you think like what Jesus Christ did, right? It's really astronomical. It is. You have to hear him, and you have to hear him speak to believe it. So he's speaking at some type of ceremony, a Medal of Honor ceremony put on by, Reagan speaks before him, Ronald Reagan. And so it was presented in 1991. I don't know for what years he got this, 1968, but maybe 67, 68, because he did 2 tours. So anyways, I'm going to read something to you, and I'm going to look up, and I actually didn't want to do this if I looked up, is he, because I heard him mention this here, which I'm going to read to you in a second. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm going to do it if he's not Christian. That's just the way I felt. If he is, I'm definitely going to do it. And I'm not having a bias or anything like that, because this is a Christian channel. And in fact, he's Catholic and he has faith in God. Listen, I'm not going to judge anyone and what this guy's been through. So you know, I found myself out of the Catholic system, just horrible stuff, traditions of men and stuff. But anyways, that's not for this video. So I'm gonna read this. I don't know if he's still alive today. He very well could be. He would be, oh, I don't know, he could be in his late 60s, early 70s, but I don't want to judge his age, and so this is just very short. Every Christian knows this, or most practicing Christians know this, and a lot of people who aren't have heard this. So I'm just going to start here. I'm going to start here. I'm not going to read a lot of this. So this is Jesus talking in John 15, verse 5. I have difficulty speaking, so. Oh, and I want to say also, you know, I think this does relate to my channel. Like, we should also include people who are in war, right? Of course, why wouldn't we? There's people who lay down their lives. So, I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abideth in me, King James Version, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather them, and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit, so shall you be my disciples. As the Father hath loved me, so I have loved you. Continue in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends, if you do whatsoever I command you. So I'll just stop there for that. And I hear him mention that, and that's why I say this, and it's completely applicable, right? So before I go on the video, here it is. Roy Benavidez. So he's actually 9 years older than my own father, so yeah, he's older. He's almost 90 years old. Oh, so Sarah, he died in 1998. Okay. Oh man, this is still worthy. So, guy had a hard life. So, this is him with, there you can see with Reagan there. He was a Master Sergeant, Roy P. Benavidez. Was a United States Army soldier and was awarded the Medal of Honor. I'm just not going to go any further because Reagan is going to talk about him, and then he's going to tell his own story. If you beware, right? If you don't like violence and stuff, you're going to hear that. But he did it out of love. So apologies, I'm eating while I'm doing this. I have quite a busy life, so this is older, and this is, I guess, the best film there is. So let's just listen to it.
On the morning of May 2nd, 1968, a 12-man Special Forces reconnaissance team was inserted by helicopters in a dense jungle area west of Loc Ninh, Vietnam, to gather intelligence information about confirmed large-scale enemy activity. This area was controlled and routinely patrolled by the North Vietnamese Army. After a short period of time on the ground, the team met heavy enemy resistance and requested emergency extraction. 3 helicopters attempted extraction, but were unable to land due to intense enemy small arms and anti-aircraft fire. Sergeant Benavidez was at the forward operating base in Loc Ninh monitoring the operation by radio when these helicopters returned to offload wounded crew members and to assess aircraft damage. Sergeant Benavidez voluntarily boarded a returning aircraft to assist in another extraction attempt. Realizing that all the team members were either dead or wounded and unable to move to the pickup zone, he directed the aircraft to a nearby clearing where he jumped from the hovering helicopter and ran approximately 75 meters under withering small arms fire to the crippled team. Prior to reaching the team's position, he was wounded in his right leg, face, and head. Despite these painful injuries, he took charge, repositioning the team members and directing their fire to facilitate the landing of an extraction aircraft and the loading of wounded and dead team members. He then threw smoke canisters to direct the aircraft to the team's position. Despite his severe wounds and under intense enemy fire, he carried and dragged half of the wounded team members to the awaiting aircraft. He then provided protective fire by running alongside the aircraft as it moved to pick up the remaining team members. As the enemy's fire intensified, he hurried to recover the body and the classified documents on the dead team leader. When he reached the team leader's body, Sergeant Benavidez was severely wounded by small arms fire in the abdomen and grenade fragments in his back. At nearly the same moment, the aircraft pilot was mortally wounded and his helicopter crashed. Although in extremely critical condition due to his multiple wounds, Sergeant Benavidez secured the classified documents and made his way back to the wreckage, where he aided the wounded out of the overturned aircraft and gathered the stunned survivors into a defensive perimeter. Under increasing enemy automatic weapons and grenade fire, he moved around the perimeter, distributing water and ammunition to his weary men, reinstilling in them a will to live and fight. Facing a buildup of enemy opposition with a beleaguered team, Sergeant Benavidez mustered his strength and began calling in tactical airstrikes and directing the fire from supporting gunships to suppress.
I just want to jump in because I do know some stuff. Ronald Reagan, I forget if he definitely fought in World War II. I forget if he was a pilot. I know George Bush Sr. was, and there's a video actually of him. You can go find it. He was shot down in the Pacific, and a submarine picks him up, and they're videotaping it. That is available on, you can find that on YouTube, but he's not very big, eh? And so I guess he's with the Airborne. You know, if you watch Band of Brothers, same type of thing, but with helicopters now. And if you've seen the movie We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson, it's like that. They're not like I don't think they're with an army. They're just paratroopers, like being inserted in the jungle, and it's just them and whoever it happens to be. And We Were Soldiers, they came up against, what was it, a whole like 2 regiments of people, you know, hundreds versus thousands. But anyways, that's what these guys do, and you can hear how dire it is. So he's rescuing everyone. He's getting hit quite a lot.
Press the enemy's fire and so permit another extraction attempt. He was wounded again in his thigh by small arms fire while administering first aid to a wounded team member just before another extraction helicopter was able to land. His indomitable spirit kept him going as he began to carry his comrades to the craft. On his second trip with the wounded, he was clubbed from behind by an enemy soldier. In the ensuing hand-to-hand combat, he sustained additional wounds to his head and arms before killing his adversary. He then continued under devastating fire to carry the wounded to the helicopter. Upon reaching the aircraft, he spotted and killed 2 enemy soldiers who were rushing the craft from an angle that prevented the aircraft door gunner from firing upon them. With little strength remaining, he made one last trip to the perimeter to ensure that all classified material had been collected or destroyed and to bring in the remaining wounded.
After all that, he did that.
In serious condition from numerous wounds and loss of blood, did he allow himself to be pulled into the extraction aircraft. Sergeant Benavidez' gallant choice to join voluntarily his comrades who were in critical straits, to expose himself constantly to withering enemy fire, and his
Sorry, I believe I'll have to recheck. I believe he was hit on his body in some way, shape, or form 70 times.
refusal to be stopped despite numerous severe wounds saved the lives of at least 8 men. His fearless personal leadership, tenacious devotion to duty, and extremely valorous actions in the face of overwhelming odds were in keeping with the finest traditions of the military service and reflect the utmost credit on him and the United States Army. Sergeant Benavidez, a nation grateful to you and to all your comrades living and dead, awards you its highest symbol of gratitude for service above and beyond the call of duty, the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Just wait for his story in his own words.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, like I say in Spanish, in German, Dankeschön, in Japanese, arigato ne, and in French, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. I don't speak those languages fluently, but I'll never get lost in those countries if I ever go there. Thank you very much to the $1 Million Roundtable for inviting me to come and be along with these other eloquent speakers. I come from a little town named Cuero, Texas. I was born there, the turkey capital of the world. After the death of my mother and father, at an early age, my brother and I were adopted by an aunt and uncle. We moved to El Campo, Texas, a town southwest of Houston, about an hour and a half. I was raised there. I went to school there. I worked at odd jobs there, shined shoes, sold papers, paid cotton. And like a fool, I dropped out of school and I ran away from home. I'm not proud of that. I needed to learn a skill. I needed an education. My adopted father would tell me, son, an education and a diploma is the key to success. Bad habits and bad company will ruin you. Well, I was too old to go back to school.
Bad company corrupts good morals. I do believe continuing education means a lot, despite what you hear from many Christians channels.
I didn't want to return back, so I joined the Texas National Guard, and I liked what I saw in men in uniform. And I qualified to join the regular Army. I needed that education and learn the skill. So I was accepted into the regular Army. Then I heard about airborne. I heard about that extra pay that you get for jumping out of airplanes. So I qualified to go to jump school at Fort Benning, Georgia. But the darn recruiters never told me what the training was like. For every mistake that you make, you do push-ups. And I can honestly tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm one of the guys that helped put Georgia into South Carolina doing push-ups. Well, I finished my training. I got assigned to a well-known unit at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the 82nd Airborne Division. I like the 82nd, thank you. Airborne all the way. I like that. And so after a while there, I heard about the Special Forces. You know us as the Green Berets. And they were coming up. So I qualified to join the Special Forces. Of course, I'm a linguist. We in the Special Forces are trained to operate deep behind enemy lines with little or no support at all. We are trained in 5 specialties. I'm trained in 3. Operation Intelligence, where I learn oceanography, meteorology, photography. I'm an interrogator and I'm a linguist. I'm trained in light and heavy weapons and cross-trained as a medic. I've been all over the world, the Far East, Europe, South and Central America, and 2 tours in Vietnam. I was assigned to Berlin, Germany. And I was declared one time that I was the only Hispanic American that could speak German with a southern accent. Vielen Dank, danke schön. So I came back and retrained at Fort Bragg. In Vietnam, was brewing up. In 1965, I was sent to Vietnam as an advisor to a Vietnamese infantry unit. After a short period of time there, I stepped on a mine. I woke up in the Philippine Islands in Clark Air Force Base. I was paralyzed from the...
I did not hear that before. He stepped on a mine. Wow. Paralyzed.
Waist down. I was declared never to walk again. I was transferred to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, Beach Pavilion. The doctors were initiating my medical discharge papers. But at night, I would slip out of bed and crawl to a wall, using my elbows and my chin. My back would just be killing me. I'd be crying. But I'd get to the wall, and I'd set myself against the wall, and I'd back myself up against the wall, and I'd stand there like Elijah the Indian. I'd stand there and move my toes right and left, right. Every single chance I got. I wanted to walk. I wanted to go back to Vietnam because of what the news media was saying about us, that our president was not needed there, to burn the flag, what. And I saw a lot of other patients coming back, limbs missing. I wanted to go back. I was determined, because I remember when I was taught in jump school, that old master sergeant would tell me, Benavidez, quitters never win and winners never quit. What are you? I said, I'm a winner. And I remember in my special forces, training, one of the training missions that I was on, I remember that my leader would tell me, faith, determination, and a positive attitude. A positive attitude will carry you further than ability. You can do it, Benavidez. You can do it. I never forgot those three words. Never. So there I was at night. I'd slip out of bed. The nurses would catch me sometime. They would chew me out, give me a pill, a sleeping pill, put me to sleep. They would tell the doctors in the morning. I was determined to walk. 9 months later, here comes my medical discharge paper. And I told the doctor, Doctor, look what I can do. He said, Sergeant, I'm sorry. Even if you can stand up, you'll never be able to walk. I jumped out of bed and I stood up right before him. My back was hurting, aching. I was crying. And I moved just a little bit. The doctor said, Benavidez, if you walked out of this room, I'll tear the papers up. I walked out of that ward at Beach Pavilion. I walked out with a limp. I went back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I started my therapy again, running 5 or 10 miles a day, doing 50, 100 push-ups. And I made 3 parachute jumps.
That's crazy. That's got to be the Spirit of God, right?
One day, I was ready to go push up, and I made 3 parachute jumps in one day. I was ready to go back to Vietnam, physically and mentally ready to go back. My orders were to go to Central America as an advisor, but being an uncommissioned officer and knowing some of the good officers in the right places, my orders were diverted. So I went back to Vietnam in 1968. The latter part of April, I was inserted, my buddy and I, to gather intelligence information behind enemy lines. After 2 days on the ground, my buddy was shot through the eye, the back, and legs. Our mission was completed, but I didn't want to leave my buddy behind. I called in for an extraction helicopter to come and get us out. They came in with the McGuire rig. McGuire rig is nothing but a piece of rope, nylon rope with a hook. In this case, there was 2 ropes. We hooked on, the enemy was firing at us. We pulled up, going up through the canopy of the jungle. Our rope started to twist and rub. You know, nylon, it burns when it rubs. As we cleared the canopy, our ropes were completely twisted and rubbing. And there was a non-commissioned officer that looked out of the helicopter. He was riding as a safety man. And when he saw those two ropes burning, he immediately tied himself with a piece of rope around his waist, and he pulled himself out of the helicopter and undid those two ropes, separated them. That's dedication. That's love of fellow man and country. I'll never forget that man. And the enemy was still firing at us, but they never shot us. We landed in a safe spot. My buddy was taken to the hospital shortly thereafter. He expired. I was in another staging area waiting for our next assignment when I heard on the radio something like a popcorn machine. Then I heard a voice, "Get us out of here, get us out of here, come in and get us out quick, ASAP." I asked the radio operator, "Who are those?" He said, "I don't know. They haven't gave us any call sign." And I saw some helicopter pilots run to the flight line, scrambling. I ran right behind them. We saw a helicopter coming in to land and had a door gunner slumped over his weapon. When the helicopter landed, I unstrapped the door gunner, Michael Craig, 19 years old. We just celebrated his 19th birthday in March. I cradled him in my arms, and his last words were, "My God, my mother and father." I asked the pilot, "Who are the people on the ground?" He said, "Hey," he said, "it's that black NCO, that non-commissioned officer saved your life the other day, remember?" I said, "Leroy Wright." Leroy always got picked for top secret assignments, him and Musso and O'Connor. So it was an instant reaction. I saw a bag of medical supplies, I picked it up, went over to my helicopter, got on the helicopter. We got on with the forward air controller, the guy that's in, he said, "You can't go in there, you can't go in. It's too hot." Little did I know that I was going to spend 6 hours in hell. You heard what the president read, the citation of how I earned the Medal of Honor. But he didn't tell you of what I went through when I engaged in the hand-to-hand combat. I was hitting them out with the butt of the weapon. My jaws were locked. After my last return back to the helicopter, when I was boarded on, I was holding my intestines in my hand. We lifted up. The helicopter had over its payload. Blood was flowing on both sides of the helicopter. When we landed at Lac Ninh, our staging area, and
just in case you didn't hear that, he said he was holding his intestines in his hand. You can see what looks like a cleft lip type of thing there. I guess that's from being hit with the butt of a gun. I thought it might have been a bullet, like a shrapnel or something like that. But
we started unloading, started identifying the bodies. They found out I loaded 3 dead enemy soldiers in that helicopter. I didn't want to leave anybody behind. My mission was to recover the classified material, so if anybody had it, he was on the helicopter. So they let the 3 enemy soldiers on the side, and because I sort of look Oriental, they thought I was one of them, so they let me lay right next to them. And they were putting us in body bags. And I remember that my feet had been lifted, and I was inserted into the body bag, and I could hear that zipper coming up, and I thought, "Oh my God, no, no." My eyes were shut because I had blood all over my face, and the blood had dried up in my eyelids. And I couldn't talk because my jaws were locked, and I could hear that zipper coming up, and one of my buddies was doing the Mexican head dance, and he was yelling at the doctor, that's Roy Benavidez." The doctor said, "Sorry, there's nothing I can do for him." Oh my God, and the zipper just coming up. I was trying to wiggle in my own blood. And finally, I'll find out later, Jerry Cottenham made that doctor at least to feel my heartbeat. When I felt that hand on my chest, I made the luckiest shot I ever made in my life. I spit in the doctor's face.
So if not for that, he could have dry drowned.
So the doctor says, I think he'll make it. So I was cleaned up, put in a helicopter, alongside with my buddy, one of the guys that I had saved. We got airborne. I just said to myself, hold on, buddy, just hold on. We're going to get some medical attention. And his grip tightened up on me. And then he let go. I said, oh, God, why do you put me through this test? Why? You helped me get these men out, save them, save this material, and now you take them away from me. Why? And I was crying, I was moving so much that the co-pilot, he happened to look back, and he thought that I was gasping for air, so he gets out of his seat, get his bayonet out, and he's going to do a track on me, and I'm about to kick him out of the helicopter. That's just too much for one day. So we landed in the hospital at Long Beach. I was wheeled to the operating room, and as I was being lifted to my operating table, I saw this nurse on her hands and knees crying, yelling, asking God, why do you do this to these men? Why? Just crying. And as I turned a little bit to my left, I saw on the other operating table a man that had both legs and both arms missing. I passed out. I woke up in the ward. One of my buddies was laying next to me. We were so bandaged up, we couldn't talk. We used to wiggle our toes to make sure that we were still alive. After a short while, my buddy was transferred from there, and I thought he had died. I was transferred to Japan, Tachikawa, and the airplane that I was flying in medevac, we lost 2 men. And I remember this nurse kept yelling at me, Benavidez, you're not going to die on me. I'm going to pinch you every time you close your eyes. I'm going to pinch you, I'm going to pinch you. Boy, she kept pinching me. When I got to Tachikawa, when I got to Japan, and they wheeled me into the operating room, they disrobed me again. I remember the doctor, I heard him say, what in the world happened to you? I had blue spots, red spots all over me, and I said, that lady kept pinching me up there. So after I went back to Fort Sam Houston, the Beach Pavilion, and I stayed in that hospital almost a year. I continued with my career, and then I was awarded with a medal. I was dedicating myself to come and speak to schools, to civic groups, to help anyone that I can help. My life was spared for a reason, and I hope there's a good reason. A lot of people call me a hero. I appreciate the title, but the real heroes are the ones that gave their life for this country. The real heroes are our wives, our mothers. Above all, the heroes are the ones that are laying in those hospitals, disabled for life in those hospital beds. But the real heroes are the future leaders of our country, these students that are staying in school and learning to say no to drugs. Those are our real heroes. You know, there's a saying among us veterans, for those that had fought for it, life has a special flavor. The protected will never know. You have never lived till you almost died. And it is us veterans that pray for peace most of all, especially the wounded, because we have to suffer the wounds of war. I'm asked hundreds of times, would you do it over again? In my 25 years in the military, I feel like I've been overpaid for the service to my country. There'll never be enough paper to print the money, nor enough gold in Fort Knox for me to have to keep from doing what I did. I'm proud to be an American, and even prouder and I'm even prouder that I've earned the privilege to wear the Green Beret. I live by the motto of duty, honor, country. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
You know, it's a big topic with Christians. Do we fight? Are we able to protect ourselves? Which I found myself in not too long ago, but I won't speak more on that. Are we allowed to fight in war? Well, if you take a look, obviously there are times when you have to, or like Benavidez, where, you know, didn't have an education, so he went through the military. So, excuse me, sorry, abdominal disorders, but you can see the humble heart, right? You can see the humble heart. And from all the Medal of Honor recipients that I've seen in movies and stuff like that, none of them really that I've seen really care to be called a hero, you know? And I can understand that. So, not that I'm a hero, guys. I'm just saying I can understand that. Thanks for watching, and God bless.